What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's the best captaincy ahead of Game Week 3. And I spoke about Game Week 3 pre-season, about how it was going to be tricky. How would we fit Son in? Where would Kane be? Man United are playing Wolves. Liverpool and Chelsea are playing against each other. So there wasn't really going to be a standout, although I think there is a particular player who's very favoured by the community at the moment. So we're going to talk about all the options we could go for, and then obviously we'll talk about the rest of the teams at the end and try and come to some kind of conclusion. So if you enjoy it, give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. Let's jump into it. Okay, so just a couple of things first. So instead of doing it match by match, right, and talking about like Fernandes and Pogba and Greenwood or whatever, for this week, because there's so many options, I'm just going to talk about the standout options. And I've designed the screens like this. I've got another one in a minute for Antonio and co as well, so don't panic, we're going to talk about him. The stats on screen are from the last 2 game weeks. Obviously, we shouldn't pay a huge amount of attention to what's happened so far. 2 game weeks is nothing in terms of a sample size. So let's not forget what happened last season, right? So Kane's only had 1 shot. He's barely played any minutes. Let's not forget how good he was last season and how good he probably will be this season. In terms of like bringing in Kane or not, I actually wrote an article on 888 Sports, which I talked about that, which I'll link in the description or maybe do a pinned comment below. So take a look at that in terms of buying him and ripping our teams apart to get him. But for this, we're just going to keep it simple. We're talking about best captain, right? So easily, for me, Kane is now the standout option. He's staying at Spurs. There is maybe some caveats, right? Exactly how will Nuno line up when he's got his whole first team available? So when he's got Kane and Son, will it be a 4-3-3? Will he play a different formation? Will it be 4-2-3-1 or whatever? I don't know if we can be 100% sure on that until we see all the players on the pitch at once. But obviously, we know that Kane and Son are going to start. It'd be very surprising if that didn't happen. And also, Kane played in Europe, right? So that's something to think about. But to be honest, I just think that was to probably get minutes in his legs because he hadn't had much of a pre-season. I'd be very surprised if Kane doesn't start this week. There is obviously a slight risk with that, but I think if I had him, I would be captaining him, right? If we think about, like, even if you look at the stats for 2 games, again, it doesn't really matter, but Son's had 2 games. Yes, he came off a bit early in the second one, but his expected goals are 0.33. Kane played hardly any minutes, and it's already 0.31, and that's what we saw last season, right? The eye test kept telling people that Kane was playing deep, but he kept having the most shots. His expected goals was always higher, and obviously he's got penalties as well. So because of the fixture, and fixtures matter so much, and I feel like that's such an obvious thing to say, but it's always an argument in the FPL community about form and fixtures, and Spurs had the fixture. So Kane is the standout. Let's talk about Son, because a lot of people have got him, and the community is quite clearly reacting to there's a lot of recency bias, I will say. Now, we're going to talk about Antonio in a minute. I don't think he's a bad option at all. He's probably one of the best options this week, to be honest. But a lot of people got Son in for this fixture, and now they're worried because he hasn't really gone big, right? What's he got? Like 1 goal so far, I think, which was against Man City, and then he blanked against Wolves. If I had Son in my team, right, which I don't right now, I'll be honest, and the reason for that is not due to captaincy, it's to do with long-term transfers and stuff like that. I spoke about that already this week. I would absolutely captain him. If you've not got Harry Kane, I think Son is the standout. I keep seeing tweets and stuff saying that, well, now Kane's back, will Son be as good? This is the same Son that has been super consistent whenever he's got minutes over the last 4 or 5 seasons, however long he's been at Spurs. Last year, I think he got like 27 or 28 returns, and now we're worried that Kane's in the team, that Son might not score goals. I just don't get it. Of course, maybe Nuno will deploy like a really defensive tactic and Son won't get any chances, but I just don't think that's going to happen. So if I had Son in my team, bearing in mind you get the extra point for the midfield goal, extra point for a clean sheet, which Spurs could get against Watford. He will get chances in this game. As long as Nuno passes him fit, I just think he's going to play. He'll get chances. And if you've got him, I feel like you have to captain him. Like, try and not go. It's very hard to like ignore the crowd. I get that. And a lot of people are talking about Antonio now. But I think Son's a great option, right? So if you've got him, I would definitely be captaining him. With Fernandes, I genuinely think if Man United had played Southampton first and then Leeds second, right? So he blanks in Game Week 1 and then Game Week 2 he gets a hat-trick. I think everyone will be captaining Fernandes this week, and I think he's just being forgotten about because of the way, like, after Game Week 1, it's like, oh, he's getting really far forward, he's going to be scoring more goals, and now it's like Southampton's like, well, he's probably not going to do anything, I'm not going to captain him. One thing I will say about the opposition, right, Wolves, and again, 2 game week sample size is nothing. Man United could go and score 2, 3, 4 goals in this fixture, but Wolves so far, their expected goals conceded is 1.93. So that's less than 1 a game. That's pretty good. If they could keep that up all season, they'd get a good number of clean sheets. The reason that's interesting is because it's not too much different to last season when their defence was also pretty good in terms of underlying numbers. Now, I know some people will turn around and say it's all about clean sheets. That's absolutely fine if that's how you want to make your decisions. But I'm looking at expected data a lot. And Wolves were actually quite good, even if the clean sheets didn't come. So it looks like they've maybe carried that over to this season. Possibly. It's only 2 game weeks. But they have played Leicester and they have played Spurs. So 2 good teams. Good teams. And about to play another good team. So they could keep the score down. That's the only thing that would make me kind of half think about Fernandes. But right now, the way I'm seeing it is when I see the community talk that the gap between like Antonio and Fernandes is like this. Realistically, it's probably like this. And I don't know if I've just covered the mic and you can't hear that now. But I think you could make an argument that Antonio is a better option this week. At home, looking really good. Fitness doesn't look like too much of a concern either. Europa League hasn't started yet. But I don't think the gap is huge. And I would not be surprised if Fernandes outscores him. Right now, I'd probably be on Antonio. But I think that could flip. I really do think the gap is low. And again, all those things I said about Son, extra point for the goal, extra point for clean sheet and stuff like that. There's every chance that Man United could get a clean sheet in this game. And all he has to do is get a penalty or just, I don't know, all those, I don't want to say dodgy assists, but it's very easy for him to rack up points. Assist, goal, extra point for the clean sheet, etc. And suddenly you're looking at a double-digit haul out of nowhere. And who's to say he can't get it, right? After game week 1, he went up in price. We're all talking about him. 1 blank against Southampton. Bearing in mind, he did create some good chances in that game as well, even if he didn't get into the box as much. Fernandes is a great option, right? So if you haven't got Son or Kane, and you've got Antonio or Fernandes, the gap is small. If you were thinking about Fernandes anyway, don't let what happened last week distract you from that. Oh, Antonio is looking good. You know what I'm like? I love to talk about Antonio. I'm actually doing another kind of 1,000+ FPL managers video later. I'll actually put the link to the Google form below in the comments, right? So if you want to help out with that, go and fill it in. But I think the responses to who people are captaining is going to be quite interesting. I think Antonio will be very popular. I think he and Fernandes will probably be over 100% effective ownership this week. So it's going to be in a position where whichever one you captain, you don't really want the other one to score points. But just look at the numbers. 1.66 expected goals already. That's what, an average of 0.83 so far over 2 games. That's so high. And the thing is with him, this isn't really too much of an anomaly. Yes, he's not usually that high, but he is extremely high in compared to lots of other high-priced assets. 11 shots already. Yes, they were helped out a little bit by the Leicester red card and obviously the mistake from Soyuncu let him get the assist for Ben Rama, but he just looks brilliant. On Ben Rama, I definitely wouldn't be captaining him. I think he is still a bit of a minutes risk, even if he is a midfielder. I think Antonio is the one. Obviously, he's going into an international break now. Should get 80 to 90 minutes again. And Crystal Palace, I could look at the numbers, and say, well, their defence hasn't been much worse than Wolves. But I still think there's just so much going on there in terms of trying to gel together a new team under a new manager, a defence that was really poor last year. And I know they've made some kind of centre-back purchases and stuff like that, but I just think this is a brilliant fixture. And the fact that I said this before, I think I said this last week or the week before, when a decision is close, right, if you're close between Antonio and Fernandes, you could just bring it back to who's playing at home, and that is Antonio against Crystal Palace. So right now, at the time of recording this, and I'm not going to say that I'm not going to change my mind, but I think Antonio is just ahead. I'd have it as Kane, Son, Antonio just ahead of Fernandes, right? And then to be honest, the next 2 on the list probably aren't that far behind either, Vardy and Salah. Again, fixtures matter, and I think Vardy against Norwich is a huge potential for a score. Again, he's had 6 shots. I wouldn't really worry too much about that. He tends to get high quality chances rather than just taking lots of shots. And again, if I had Vardy in my team, right, if I had Vardy and Antonio, or if I had Son and Antonio, I think Antonio's a great option, but I would probably go for the other one. I would go for Vardy or I'd go for Son. If you've got him in your team at 10.5 million and he's playing Norwich, I would question why he's in there. Again, I don't always think you have to have high-priced players in your team only if you're captaining them. But Vardy against Norwich, that's probably too good to turn down. Obviously, there's kind of thoughts about they might change formation or whatever. But a lot of kind of Leicester fans seem to think that Ricardo Pereira might go to kind of a right wing position. And if that happens, they'll probably stick with the 4-2-3-1, Barnes on the left and Vardy through the middle on his own, right? Now, I know some people were concerned last year that Vardy played with Iheanacho and it wasn't so good for him, but that might not happen. So I think Vardy's really good. I think Norwich are open at the back. We saw how exposed they were against City. Now, I know City are a step above everyone else, but they constantly kept getting through the defence, and it didn't really help. Like, they took off the left back, and they've signed Brandon Williams now. I don't think it's going to make a huge amount of difference. So I really like Vardy this week. And again, I guess don't write off Mo Salah, right? I think when we look at a game like Chelsea, it's obviously going to be difficult, but he could nick a goal. But I do think if you're like, this week is not the week to captain Salah. I think there's lots of better options. It's not even necessarily that they're miles better, but I think you just have to give yourself a shot at the easier fixtures. Like that Chelsea-Liverpool game, the fact that it's early in the season, like no team wants to lose it. If it's later in the season and things are getting tight and, you know, Liverpool, if they got a win, then they could pull away, or if they got the win, they could claw back the points if they're behind Chelsea. Like, let's see what happens later in the season. But right now, I think if you said to Klopp and Tuchel, you can have a draw, you can have 1 point, they'd probably take it. Of course, they're going to come out and say they want to win every game, etc. But I think a draw would be pretty good for both teams right now, right? They've both had 2 wins. Now they're going into this game against each other. You come out of a draw, 7 points from 3, pretty decent. Then you go on and beat the rest of the weaker teams. So that's my only kind of worry about captaining someone like Salah. Yes, he can get a goal out of nowhere like we've seen him do plenty of times before, but this will be a tough game, and I do expect it to be quite tight. I feel like we've talked about so many players now, we probably don't need to talk about the rest, but just to cover off a couple of other games. So, like Danny Ings against Brentford, for example, pre-season, I would have probably said he could possibly be an option, but he's just had so few shots, and again, it's only 2 game weeks. This is Brentford. Brentford are a team which we would expect to ship a few goals at times this season. But I do have like concerns about Aston Villa trying to fit all these new players into the squad. Some of them aren't fit and available. Watkins might not play again and stuff like that. So I think if I was thinking about Danny Ings, again, there's so many other options which will play, are playing in a team that are kind of, you know, suited and know the tactics, the team know each other, etc. I probably just would ignore Danny Ings as a captain this week. Man City versus Arsenal is interesting because it's the first game this week, so there is a chance we get some genuine team news. If don't ask me who might give that, but sometimes you just get it from a genuine account and you see it and think, right, there's no smoke without fire here. This is happening. You've got to be careful though, because there are some accounts that try and kind of basically dupe you into things that aren't happening. But if there was some early team news, like Mahrez was starting, I do think he's a captain based on what Arsenal have done so far. My only kind of caveat, if I was playing devil's advocate with myself, Arsenal were starting to get a good few players back now. I wouldn't expect Arsenal to kind of keep looking really bad in defence and getting turned over. I think they are a better team than that. But Man City are also the best team in the league, right? So that could be a good game for captaincy if you know your player is starting, but that is the risk you take with Man City, and which is why I'd probably avoid. Elsewhere, I think someone like Calvert-Lewin versus Brighton, I just wouldn't go there. I think Brighton are a difficult team. I don't think Everton are going to get many goals there, and that is probably about it. I wouldn't be surprised if Leeds get a few goals, but I'm not kind of thinking about them as captain. So yeah, lots of options this week. I think we've covered them. I'm going to say Kane, Son, Antonio just ahead of Fernandes, maybe then Vardy, and then Salah, but I just think it's not really an interesting week to go Salah. So there we go. That is it for best captaincy. Let me know below who you're going for. It is one of those weeks where, I mean, if you think back to last week, right, Salah and Fernandes, we were all umming and ahhing over which one of the two to go for, and in the end, they both blanked anyway, so it didn't matter. But this is the kind of week where something big could really help you propel up the ranks. It doesn't mean that I want you to completely overthink who you're going for, but it is just one of those weeks. If you've made a decision, just stick with it, right? If you're happy with Antonio, you're happy with Fernandes, Vardy, Son, Kane, whoever it is, just stick with them. I will be doing the kind of 1,000+ FPL manager video again later, and one of the questions is around captaincy, so it'd be interesting to see just how high up some of these players are. I'm expecting someone like Antonio to come out quite high, so keep an eye on that. It'll probably be around 6 or 7 o'clock, and I'll leave the form in a comment below if you want to go and fill that in and help me out with some more responses, because it'd just be good to see where people are going. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you are new around here. Check out Patreon if you haven't already. Link in the description below. This is the final week for the August mini league, right? So it's too late to join for the August mini league, but there will be a new Q&A going up today. There's Slack access, and obviously I'll have another mini league for September with a bunch of prizes on offer for that as well. Big thank you to Andy W, Hattem A, Lewis R, and Mo, who have all signed up since the last video. I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. Give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again later.